so there are no misunderstandings moving forward. Thank you for being here, sir.
Thank you, Director Wray. Thank you for being with us today. And I know you've been here for a very long time. You know, we have spoken many times about Black identity extremists, and I definitely want to ask you about that today. I understand that the Bureau no longer uses BIE and instead categorizes these cases under the broader label of racially motivated violent extremism. But one, I wanted to know if you guys have really repudiated the whole BIE category, because I know when we've talked about it in the past, it really didn't seem to be that there was much evidence that there were Black identity extremists. And the title was a little longer than that. Something about Black identity extremists that threaten police or attack police. So tell me what's different.
So I found our conversations before to be, very constructive and very valuable. And we also engaged not just with you and your colleagues, but also with Noble, with whom we have a great relationship and are working more closely than ever.
Good.
We have, as you mentioned, changed our terminology as part of a broader reorganization of the way in which we categorize our domestic terrorism efforts. So we took a whole bunch of categories, not just the one that you mentioned, but a number of others, and consolidated it down to really 4 buckets. And the reason for that is
what are the 4 buckets?
What's that?
What are the 4 buckets?
There's racially motivated violent extremism, which is any kind of violent extremism that's driven with a kind of racial intent of one sort or another, no matter which direction. There is anarchism/government extremism. I may not have the label right, but that covers kind of variety of everything, sort of certain kinds of militia stuff all the way over to kind of more of the anarchist, maybe sort of Antifa-like kind of methodology. There is abortion violent extremism, people on either side of that issue who commit violence on behalf of different views on that topic.
People on either side of that issue don't commit violence.
Well, we've actually had a variety of kinds of violence under that, you believe it or not. But
really,
at the end of the day, and then the last one has to do with animal rights and environmental extremism. What's that?
Those are the 4?
Those are the 4. And the point is, we wanted to underscore what I told you earlier, but we wanted to make it even more clear that at the end of the day, for us, it's not about the ideology, it's about the violence. That's where we weigh in. It's not that the ideology isn't important for us as Americans, but we only investigate violence and the crimes that go with the violence.
But so under the racially motivated violent extremism, how many African American or Black groups are considered under there?
Well, again, I want to be clear. We don't investigate groups per se. We have properly predicated investigations into individuals, and in some cases they may have co-conspirators, but in each of those instances, it's where we have 3 things: credible evidence of a federal crime, credible evidence, number 2, of violence or threat or use of violence, and then number 3, on behalf of some ideology. So if we have those things, only if we have those things will we open an investigation.
So are white supremacist groups under racially motivated violent extremism? Or do white supremacists have a whole separate category?
Well, again, I want to stay away from the use of the word groups. We certainly investigate white supremacist motivated violent extremism in the same category that we're talking about. So, for example, we just last month arrested 8 members, I think, of a group known as the BASE. And there were arrests that were made not just in my home state of Georgia, but also in Maryland.
Getting ready to go to Virginia, correct? That was that was the group that was on their way to Virginia?
I think that's right. I can't remember that detail specifically.
So there are organizations, and I understand that, when you say you just investigate individuals, I mean, you just gave an example of a group. So I know that there are a lot of white supremacist groups. And so my question to you is about Black groups. And so I don't know, maybe they're Black individuals, but under the category of Black identity extremism, formally, there were organizations such as the one in Texas and the individual in Texas that was arrested. He was incarcerated for a while, and then after being incarcerated and going on trial, he was released. He had activity on a website, and he also had literature when he was arrested. Are you familiar with the case that I'm talking about? We've talked about it before.
I think so, yeah.
So my question is, are there African Americans or Black groups or individuals that are currently a part of the racially motivated violent extremism category?
Well, again, I don't know that I would speak in terms of investigating groups. We investigate individuals, and in some instances, individuals with co-conspirators. And I would say certainly there are individuals who we categorize and track under the racially motivated violent extremism part of our program management, who are African Americans targeting others. So, for example, you probably saw some of the reporting about the killing of the individuals in Jersey City, including the killing of the people in the kosher supermarket.
I did.
Those individuals were associated themselves with something called the Black Hebrew Israelite
Oh, I'm very familiar with them.
let's use that would be in that category.
So let's use that as an example, because I'm very familiar with that group. That group is in several what'd you say? Yeah, well, excuse me, but I'm taking the prerogative of the chair. Using that group as an example, is that a group, because they are open, you know, I mean, you see them on street corners in different groups. They're not a secret group at all. Is that group part of the racially motivated extremism? The group. I understand the act that took place. I understand the individuals, and it's not clear their level of association.
What I would say to you on that is that we have some investigations into individuals who associate themselves with that movement.
Beyond those two people?
Yes.
Okay. And Director Wray, documents published in